got a few highlights for you. Obviously, a great weekend this past weekend. Lots of folks between a parade. We had about more than 100 employees staffed on that through the weekend, and really, we've received almost, I'm trying to even think if we've received one complaint about the additional safety measures. I appreciate you guys, the media were contributors in making sure that the word got out with Main Street closed, with the additional space we checked with PPD. We have not heard really any feedback, and a lot of the feedback I got when I was out there this weekend was appreciation for really it feeling safer, that you had that kind of extra block of buffer of seeing more vehicles blocking the roads. You saw the temporary things out there, and so we're going to have an after-action meeting, as we always do in these situations, to see if there's any process improvements. And but the most important data point of all, no issues, no safety issues whatsoever out there when we were having tens of thousands of people. So very appreciative of our public safety folks and our city team and our citizens and visitors for heeding those, listening to what's happening and being safe out there. And so we're very, very thrilled about that. Also, of course, had Foiling Week out here, and I'll jump to kind of another update. We thought was an interesting anecdote. We saw about a 20% uptick year over year at the airport for this week in traffic, and we think a lot of that is between Foiling Week and Mardi Gras. So we saw quite a significant year over year bump. Saturday and Sunday traffic was up 25% from the same time period last year. So those are, obviously we didn't survey every person that got off a plane, but you can kind of guess how busy our weekend was. That had to have something to do with it. Baptist Hospital, the latest on that, obviously the biggest hurdle we've had really since the environmentals testing last year was going to be what's it going to cost. And so we had our February 26th deadline. We had 5 proposals as we expected to come in. And what we can say now is we're certainly pleased and very, very optimistic that we have the budget to get it done. The bids, as they always do, are in a verification process right now. Obviously, we've been able to see what those numbers are, but we do not know line items, and our team is, as they always do in any type of process like this, will be going through, making sure that they met all the requirements of the bid, that all different things are included. So the normal selection process will play itself out, and the winning bidder will be selected in the first week of April. But the most important hurdle so far to date on this was, do we have the funding currently to make this happen? Because there was no guarantee we could have gotten these bids back and the spread of those bids be so significantly higher than our funding that we would be kind of back to square one. But that was not the case. And so I won't be able, if you ask me about numbers and all that, not only we can't share those because of the process, but also they haven't even really been fully verified. But what we can tell you is, given the spread of what we saw when you talk about several sample sizes being within a comfort level of the budget, that's what we can say right now. And obviously we're thrilled with that news, and we appreciate the continued support of the state. The county, I plan on going to the county in the second week of March for their pledge $2 million to discuss that with them. We've pledged our $1 million, and we continue to work on. We had another meeting yesterday to finalize the donation agreement with Baptist, and so we were not waiting on this number. Our negotiations on the donation agreement have been taking place concurrently with waiting on these numbers. We were not sitting on our hands, but nonetheless, obviously, this news certainly is good for Baptist, good for our community, our neighborhood. Around the Legacy campus, and certainly for the city in terms of our efforts, hopefully with the housing crisis and really injecting and revitalizing this area of our city. So excited for that. The presentations will be April 3rd, and the goal is to get a contract awarded in late April or early May. So that's where we are at Baptist, and I'll take and answer whatever questions I can that you have on that. Not done with special events. We've got the Sun Belt Conference Tournament this week through Monday. We got the McGuire's Run this Saturday. So, it would be another busy week for us and weekend for us, which is great. We like that, and we continue to make sure that we focus on safety as job one, and we appreciate all of our partners around the community that are helping make those events happen. Last time I talked to you guys was the day of the vote for Gibson schools, so we are appreciative and thankful to finalize that partnership with the school district and the school board to acquire Gibson School. And this, I can maintain, as I've said to you guys before, this is not an overnight project. It's not even a next year project. I think this is going to be a long-term project, but goal number one was to preserve history in our city. And we were able to do that thanks to our partnership with the school board. And so we've gotten questions, what's it going to be? What are they going to put there? We are several phases away from that. Our goal right now is focused on getting some historic designations, opening up some potential opportunities for funding, and of course, having conversations all along the while. I mean, if there's public-private partnership out there, we'll entertain those conversations as we move forward that can help get this building revitalized. But we have no set plans on what this or the surrounding parcel will be at this point. We're just really hyper-focused on really step one, which is we know it's $501,000 just to walk in the door right now to even assess everything else. So we got plenty of work ahead of us before we start speculating what it will be. But again, very excited for that news, and I appreciate CRA and our finance team and everybody involved in helping us preserve part of our Pensacola history. I mentioned the international airport numbers, so up 20% compared to the same time last year. Saturday, Sunday traffic was up 25%. I know you guys, I think there's some media reports out there already on the Silver Airways canceling service. We're obviously aware that Silver Airways has filed for Chapter 11, and they've notified us about those Orlando flights. Understand Silver Airways is about 3% of our entire traffic out there at the airport, but we remain in close communication with them, and figuring out kind of what's next, at this point, and that's really as much as we can discuss. And obviously, again, there's bankruptcy proceedings and things like that, but we are aware of it. They have made us aware of everything. Our team feels up to date at the airport on what's going on there, and that's where that stands. Let's see. I want to share with you, proud our city housing department. HUD came in and recently recognized our housing department as a high performer agency. This is for Section 8 Management Assessment Program covering the fiscal year ending September of 2024, and it's the city's first high performer rating since 2017. So our housing department Section 8 program completed more than 2,600 housing inspections and assisted an average of 1,850 households monthly with rent assistance during the 23-24 fiscal year. Our housing department administers the program countywide, so that's been the arrangement for quite a while. That Section 8 work is done by the city housing office, but it's actually for the entire county, providing more than $1.5 million a month in rental assistance to local landlords on behalf of very low-income households. So huge kudos to Meredith and all the housing team out there for that designation for the first time in 8 years. We have the fire department car seat rodeo is today through Thursday. Pre-event, it's 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Fire Station 1, and it's our professional car seat technicians. I remember when I had Caroline, I went and found a fire department in Tuscaloosa where I lived. When you're the first-time parent, you want to make sure that thing's buckled in real well. Maybe the second and third kid, you got it handled. But so I personally always appreciate this. It's nice to know that thing's in there right when you don't know what you're doing. So, but that's a free service. Anybody can drive up to Station 1, 9 to 11 a.m. today through Thursday. We aren't providing car seats, but we will make sure that your car seat is strapped in. And you can call 436-5200 or check out the fire department's Facebook page to get any more information. I've got a couple other I'll start taking your questions. I got some bullets on some of the council items, but the big one I would say from a cost standpoint is the construction management, the CMAR for the airport, ultimately hiring the contractor to go build the airport terminal. One step in a long process, but a big one that we will have had our construction team on for a generational project at our airport. So very excited to get that in front of council and get that approved. So other than that, happy to take any questions that you have.
We bring up the airport contract. I guess, what is the timeline looking like now? You're hiring construction manager. When will that project actually?
Yeah, so remember, the terminal is going to be done in phases. So when we say that there could be work taking place this summer, some of that work will be less noticeable than a full terminal going up. We think that the whole process will be about 2 years, all told. But for example, some of our grant funding is tied to different aspects of the airport. So, for example, one of the early phases is going to be the security area. So, security area, the existing one, you'll see construction when you're using the airport, but it may not be that we're starting on a new building. So I just kind of say we start this summer with the asterisk of, don't ask me in the fall why we don't see an entire terminal up there. It's going to be phased in based on how we funded, based on how we phased the construction as well, because we want an operating airport too, right? We can't do all of this at once, and our goal is to have no hindrances to our normal service throughout this process and minimal inconveniences throughout this process. So, and that takes a lot of work. People may not realize when they go to the airport, you're on the second floor when you're in TSA. When you go up that escalator, all of the baggage handling, all of the mechanical stuff that's underneath. So to be working on the second floor while you've got all these other things happening underneath, I mean, it is, someone much smarter than me has figured out how to sequence all of that. And so it is a very complex construction project, no doubt about it. And it's why it's expensive. But the goal here is to continue to maintain all the amazing service that we have, and that our passengers don't see any inconvenience. So to answer your question, Jim, I think you'll start to see some type of work this summer, but you probably won't see some of that significant, new terminal type of work will probably be later this year, earlier next year as we get going there.
Red light cameras, do you have the numbers to release at this point?
Not yet. I know we're all waiting with bated breath. I know the only indication I've gotten so far, we'll give them to you next week, because remember, there's about a 7-day lag. So by next week, we'll have the full month of February, and just so it's not confusing, if we gave them to you today, it'd be 22 days or something like that. So we'll give you the full month. I have not seen them personally, other than I have not been indicated that we should be proud of the numbers. I can tell you that we're continuing to struggle with understanding how red lights work. So in the city, so that's all I know. But I have not actually even heard a real number yet. But we will get those to you next week. So we can give you that entire month, that sample size in February.
Speaking of not understanding how things work, Graffiti Bridge, any updates there?
Yeah, so we're in conversations with FDOT right now about, and this is of no reaction to anything reported last week. We've been talking about this for months. The thing we're looking at now is a laser-based system. We'd had a lot of conversations, especially when I got here, about a physical system, what we called the chimes, something that you'd hit. There's complications to that in terms of where it goes on the curb. And remember, the added complication is you can't put it too far south of the Graffiti Bridge because you have a boat launch. So, having a physical chime hitting everybody's boat as they go to the boat launch is not ideal either. So these are things we've been aware of, but we're just trying to navigate what's the right way to do it. And so we've been doing some research here. And again, this is over several months of time we've been looking at, and we've been in conversations with FDOT about a laser-based system that would have the warnings. I'll give it an example of the type of signage. It's like the crosswalks at Pensacola Beach, kind of the louder lights, and that are a little more obvious. That would be warning system on the bridge in front of it, like kind of you can't avoid it that it's going off. But it would be laser-based, so it would know when you are going to meet the clearance well ahead of time to allow someone to do that. The thing that surprised me, and you guys feel free to fact check this because I've wanted to do myself, but when in our conversations with FDOT, they say that this will be the first one in the state. And so that's been a little bit of a slow process. And I asked the same thing you guys asked probably, which is in all the bridges and all the spans in the state of Florida, there isn't another situation like this. And so again, it wouldn't surprise me if there was, but I can just tell you what they're telling us. and they're telling us that this is going to be the first in the state. And so there's some maneuvering that we have to do. We have to take ownership. It's a state road when you get south of the Graffiti Bridge all the way to the 3 Mile. That's all FDOT owned. So for us to put some of this equipment in, we're going to have to take some ownership of some little pieces of right-of-way. When we were going to do something physical, chimes, we were going to actually have to take the right-of-way, all of the right-of-way, for a pretty good span south. And what that means is more maintenance, more issues. So we like this better. And we appreciate FDOT working with us, because if in fact this is unprecedented in the state, it's kind of new for all of us. But they continue to be open-minded and wanting to work with us on something. So I've pledged since pretty soon to starting here that we would have something in, and I'm trying to be the mayor that ends every bridge can opener that we have here. But it hasn't been easy sledding by no one's fault. Just it's new, and we're trying to get all that done. But that work, all the work around Graffiti Bridge, the walkthrough, the repaving of the boat launch, all of that is still on track to take place. It's really supposed to be Q1 of this year. I'll have to get an exact date, but some of that work will happen. The laser system, the monitoring system might lag behind that a little bit, but we are proactively looking for our options. The north side of the bridge, I didn't mention it because that's a little easier to handle. It's our road. It's the south side of the Graffiti Bridge that is adding the complexity with the boat launch and everything else. So look, we see the same things on Facebook everybody else sees. Getting an update from somebody, opening the top of a truck, and we don't want that for that person or the rental company or the citizen moving here, excited to move here, and they start with a bang, I guess. But we don't really want that, and so we're trying to do the best we can and put something in that's never existed there before to make it easier on everybody.
With a bag, I like that. And then the current construction, the beam that's out of place, we've been reporting a little bit on.
Yeah, well, listen, that's Rail USA, the owner of that rail. That's their obligation is the sanctity of that bridge anytime. Okay. As a matter of fact, it doesn't really matter. What happens with that bridge, any strike, any issue, any maintenance issue, that bridge is the property of the rail owner. And so that's their obligation to go out and do that. Obviously, we will communicate with them, or they'll communicate with us in different situations. But we've been given no indication of obviously it goes without saying, we've been given no indication of a safety issue, or we would be we wouldn't be allowing anybody to access through there if we were given any indication of that. But that's certainly their business. It's something they know well, and so we're working with them and certainly we are at the ready to react if we thought there was ever going to be an issue. But we have never been given any kind of notice that there's a safety issue there in any way.
And that's not CSX, that's something else?
That's correct, yeah. I forget the actual, with the Florida, Georgia, I'll have to look up the line. Rail USA is the owner of that rail. That was the transaction that took place maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I'm guessing. Basically right about 9th Avenue, 14th Avenue area, all the way to Jacksonville. All of that was purchased from CSX to someone else. CSX owns the remaining area down to the port, Tarragona, all of that stuff going west. But everything right around the Grand Hotel-ish area to the east, up Scenic Highway, and then down North Florida, all of that is not CSX anymore. So, yeah.
So this laser system, is it as effective as hanging time? What's the research there?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we think it's more effective. We think it's more cost effective, and again, when like anything else, if we have the complexity of the boat launch and where to put it, warning somebody half a second before they hit the bridge doesn't do us much good, and hitting everybody's boat that they want to take to the boat launch, south doesn't do us much good, right? So just trying to think outside the box and use more modern solutions that seem to have a good track record. These are used in other places in the United States and Europe all the time. So we'll get a good look at it, and certainly we feel like it's less intrusive, but also more effective. And from a maintenance standpoint, if somebody hits the chimes that we buy, we spend $150,000 on chimes, and somebody hits those hard enough, that's another maintenance issue that we've got. So we like that aspect of it too, is that if we can get the warning, goal one is the warning. Goal two is to not have to continue to fix a broken, warning system all the time when somebody hits it. So, so we like the direction of that. FDOT so far is supportive of it, and so that's what we're looking into right now. Hasn't been finalized, but we've gotten into some deeper conversations about that.
Would that be going in on the north side too, or?
I would assume that would be the case. I have not confirmed that, meaning, again, a physical system would be less complex on the north side, but I'm going to speculate and assume that if we go ahead and have them install on the south side, we'll probably do laser on the north side too, even though it might be easier to put, to install one on the north side. But remember, there's actually a little access road right there just north of the graffiti bridge. So that's neither. It's probably why no mayor's done it yet. Neither option's real clean on figuring out how to do this. We've just spent enough time and invested enough bandwidth to try to get this done because, it's time. Decades and decades of this being an issue. It's time for us to figure something out. And, that's what the citizens, even if our citizens don't have the comic relief that they want on social media anymore, if I still want to get this solved. And so we're going to get that solved one way or the other.
As long as we're on transportation,
Yeah.
Going back to 2 lanes on MLK,
Mm-hmm.
Was there something particular that drove studying that? Were there particular accidents or a number of accidents?
Yeah, so what we're looking at, MLK and Davis have been 2-lane, one-way highways since they were put in place before the interstate was put in place. So, and they go the same direction. So the whole idea was that was supposed to help people navigate quicker, north and south of town. Once we have an interstate system go in, that has mitigated the need for that. What every study will tell you in traffic is when you have 2 lanes of one-way traffic going the same direction, it's less safe. And remember, when you drive through those, that's a residential area. This is not. There's very little commercial in these spans of MLK and Davis within the city. So you have neighbors and kids playing out on what's ultimately a faster moving 4-lane highway. And you can pick any study you want that shows, like back in the day when I grew up, Palafox was 2 lanes one way, and there was a lot of rebuttal about that when we went to 1 lane each way. I think that was a good decision. I think we've slowed traffic down. We've made it more pedestrian friendly. So what we're trying to do is help that neighborhood and help these neighbors. We run into issues, people going the wrong way up those roads because it kind of looks like, if you're not paying attention or you're not from there, it kind of feels like it should be because it's in a neighborhood, yet it's supposed to be this fast moving traffic. So, we in the early 70s when we dissected that neighborhood to put in an interstate, that decision was made, and we're trying to do the Hollis T. Williams project to remedy that and to try to reconnect what was a neighborhood divided. Kind of hard to say we're doing that and then also leave MLK and Davis that also dissects the neighborhood with fast-moving traffic. And so this was our one shot to do that. FDOT was going to move along with the design of the repaving and all that, keeping it that way. So us putting that money in helped us beat the clock that we could now, we got to go find the construction money to do it. It's expensive to go from 1-way to 2-way because of signaling and everything else. But we beat the first clock, which is if they designed it without it, it's over. The design now allows that future to still be real, and then now it's our goal to work with FDOT to get the construction funding to make that happen. But so our goal is we've already got a mechanism to move north and south very, very quickly. That is right by these roads. Let's return these roads back to the neighborhood, back to a little bit of slower speed, safety for children, safety for wrecks, people going wrong ways, all that kind of stuff. So it's been discussed here for years and years, and so I'm glad, and with the partnership with the county, I'm glad that we've taken this seriously and again, tried to get something done with that we've been talking about for quite a long time.
Mayor, I want to ask you about the blue economy, these knock-on effects from the Moffitt-Nichols study, the American Magic, Triumph Gulf Coast, UWF, GL52,
Yep.
Foiling Week Global, and now I understand that there was a number of commercial deals made during Foiling Week that were announced by Dr. Rashan and others last night, including one that's going to have the North American Surfing Association will sanction next year's participation in Pensacola.
Yeah.
For a race, 400 plus people, this, that, and the other. But the question I got is, you've had some management changes at the port. There's a lot of things going on down there, but it appears that this Moffitt-Nichols recommendation to look at the blue economy is really blossoming now. Would you give the audience an assessment of where you think we are? Are you satisfied with this? What do you see next?
Listen, I think when you look at the Moffitt-Nichols study, it's interesting. I think for a long time there's been this 0 or 10 mentality at the port that either we don't want to port at all, or it needs to be all cargo. And I think the truth lies exactly where you just said it, is we have such amazing potential that we're just getting started by having fit port uses that need access to the water, that are innovative uses. And so it may not be a rock pile, or it may not be cargo, but it might be these things that pay rent to the port, that help support the port. But the best projects that we have on the port, and GE is the first one that comes to mind, the best projects that we have on the port, it's not about the rent they pay at the port. It's about the reverberating impact that they have throughout the community. So when GE has 500 jobs on Scenic Highway, I think that port deal is pretty important. And when they support other companies like Blue Wind and like some others that have come into the market, when you start compounding the job creation or maintenance of that port contract with GE, it reverberates well off the port. And when you have a small port in the heart of a downtown, every puzzle piece needs to matter at that level. It's not just about rent, and it's not just about wharfage and tonnage, and those are great. We want to support, but I think we can have both. We can have specific, unique port uses like American Magic, and like these regattas that need the access to the water, but also have that ability for UWF to be doing engineering and training our local kids. For Pensacola State, that I know now is in conversation with American Magic as well about some helping fuel their.
That was Moffitt-Nichols' recommendation as well, right? To have the educational facilities
all intertwined. Yeah, and the whole idea is to take that north half of the port that is undeveloped and say, we can have this happy medium of having these more traditional cargo uses that are helping fund and pay for the port, but also in helping fuel jobs off the port, as well as have these kind of next level modernizations. And you mentioned Foiling Week. I tell every Rotary Club I go to, I tell people all the time, we're all excited about American Magic, and they've given us the ability as a community to plant our flag as a sailing destination in the United States. But the bread and butter of the economic return for American Magic is going to be in events like Foiling Week. I expect we'll have 6, 8 national, international level regattas in 2026. That is where to me, the real fuel for our economy and the real fuel for our really our vitality and quality of life in the city is to have all of these people coming in from all over the world that get to experience Pensacola for the first time, spend some of their money here, and want to come back. And so I think we're just scratching the surface now with Foiling Week, with the GL52 regattas in March and April. I think what we're sitting in is probably the slowest period for sailing for the next several generations. I think you should expect that sailing will be a routine part of what happens in our city. And again, I think that going back to my port point is that is reverberating impact of American Magic, not only on port, not only with rent, not only with that facility, but having a huge impact off port. And so that really is my litmus test when we start talking about what the vision for the port is what can we do on port that it needs that marine use, but also can illustrate that it's creating really economic vitality off the port, whether it be jobs, whether it be spending, whether it be anything else. So I was very excited and encouraged to see all of again, you saw the airport numbers, so to see people in from all over the world who hadn't been here and get to talk to some of those folks, I thought was great. And it's exactly what we hoped for with this deal. and exactly what we envision when we have American Magic move here, and to have that level of credibility within this space. And I know American Magic's excited. I mean, when you start dealing with foils and all of that, all the technology conversations, that's what they do. So, so the more activity we have like that in our community, the better for all of us. And I know for me, I'm very, very excited for the future of what's going to happen, both on our port and the economic impact that we can have off the port.
There was apparently a large meeting of community leaders 2 weeks ago, perhaps. Again, this is coming from Raishan, but he said there was representatives of all the scientific, community development, port people there talking about how to leverage all of these sailing activities. Did you participate in that?
I was at the one this week where all of all the different businesses and stuff were, I came and spoke and welcomed them.
Yeah, you had the blue gear on, right?
No, what do you mean? No, I didn't have. No, I had. I was probably wearing something like this, but no.
Give us a readout of that discussion.
Well, what I would say is no, I was not at the meeting 2 weeks ago. I'm sure our staff or Erica or somebody was. But what we've told Foiling Week and everybody else is, as we should be, we're at the ready to help in any way that we can. I think like anything else, like the parades, we'll probably learn from this week and say, this went well, what can we do better, like anything. And remember, we've also invested bandwidth in creating a position for citywide larger scale events. We used to really have just the one person that was doing all events for the city, whether it was a 5K run or it was a regatta. We had one person in charge of that in our Parks and Rec department. We've expanded that because we know, and really, so now Beach Davis is over all of the large scale events, whether it be arts festival, seafood festival, regattas, because we're going to have so much going on now, and we want to nail them. We want to get them done right. And so now we've got full-time bandwidth just to focus on these dozen, 15, 20 major events in the city, and then we'll have a second person that's doing all of the 5K runs and the smaller events that we need, that we've got a permit and everything else. So, we're investing, and we, the taxpayers, are investing in the success of these events. So what I say is we're always ready to go to help these events be successful, because we know that the key to maximizing all of the economic vitality of American Magic and of all these events is to be ready to go. So I certainly know we are that, and we're excited for the future.
Mayor, if I could come down
Yeah.
to the 30,000 foot level here and ask you about the proposed development on the ECUA property on the west side. We've gotten a couple of some input from some residents in those neighborhoods about the egress from this development being on Club Street. And they're questioning that I'm sure your development review process considers all that.
Yes.
But you had said before that that may not be, we've got a bigger street right behind it there that can handle more capacity. Has anybody talked to you about how the egress and entrances and all that will work?
Well, here's what I would say. I first defer the traffic load assumptions, speculation to the experts in this building, right? I mean, so in other words, what I can promise you is we don't make decisions in planning and routing traffic that are blind to the infrastructure around it. As a matter of fact, something that we did in my administration that we've never done is we did a citywide study of studying every road, so we would understand what the traffic loads are, and if something were to come in, then what would be needed. So for example, if someone built something and we needed a turn lane, then we would be able to say that. Prior, we would just be guessing, ultimately. So we invested significantly in technology to understand that. So I'm giving you the why behind. I have a lot of trust in our team and our staff to know where the ingress and egress loads can be taken, and what those limiting factors are. So I don't want to get ahead on unfounded speculation about whether clubs can or can't take it. What I can promise you is there's no city staff making a decision that we would say that it can't handle the capacity and we decide to do it anyway. I can guarantee that isn't going to happen. So if they believe that Government Street's the right way, I trust our team if they believe Club Street's the right way. And of course, we'll listen to we appreciate any feedback from the community, but I would not run on the presumption that because someone asked about it or because someone assumes that it can't happen on Club Street, then that means it can't. It's 282 units. Not all 282 units leave at the same time. So you're still talking about a limited number of vehicles per hour. But I'll defer all of those data points to our team, and certainly we'll get you, whatever information. But I've got trust in our team that they're thoughtful and they're smart about how to plan for that. Certainly, we knew it wasn't going to go on Main Street because of the same reasons, because of the traffic flow that's already happening. Right, we're not going to have main ingress and egress, but our team knows what they're doing, and I know that they're getting feedback from the neighborhood associations around there, and so I hope that conversation continues, and I also hope that we can that the neighbors give us a little benefit of the doubt as well, that we understand some of how these things work, and that we want everybody. A traffic jam on Club Street doesn't help us. Certainly doesn't help me. So we're all in the same boat together. We want that to work. We want the development. We want the housing. We're in a crisis, but we want traffic to flow well too.
Any quick flybys on Maritime Park parcels?
I know they continue to move forward. We've been given no request for an extension, a hang up, anything like that. I know conceptual review. Actually, I think they're going to be meeting with some council members. The team mentioned this week ahead of some conceptual review. I think we might see some additional drawings coming up. Not architectural, but just some fleshing out the concept and all of that, I believe, is coming forward. I haven't seen those, but I believe those are coming to council, or they were going to meet with some council members come pretty soon, either this week or next week. So we should start to see some extra movement publicly on what's going on there. But from a timeline standpoint or any of that, we expect it's full steam ahead. Anything else? All right, thank you guys, appreciate it.
This weekend, Maritime Park, the concept of the stadium